We're going to now turn the conversation a bit, and I know this can be difficult because my guess is you would love to sit in that conversation for a bit. But there are so many important conversations, and I'm going to ask if Martha and Jason would come up to help us understand a little bit more of the dreamer story. Martha, thank you, and Jason, it's yours.
So my name is Jason Lief. I teach college. I teach practical theology at Northwestern College in Orange City, Iowa. I'm also a mobilizer for Iowa, Missouri, and Wisconsin. And I'll let Martha introduce herself here in a minute. I'll give you, a little bit of context. We live in the reddest county in the state of Iowa. Steve King, if you know who Steve King is our representative, which makes things interesting. In dealing with the issue of immigration. We're also a very rural area, a very agricultural based area. And so I'm just going to interview Martha, who also works at Northwestern. And so Martha, just to begin, just introduce yourself and tell us who you are, and then tell us a little bit of your story. How did you end up in the reddest county in the state of Iowa?
My name is Martha Draayer. I work at Northwestern College part-time through May. I am also a special education teacher and consultant for Northwest AEA. And I work with infants from 0 to 5 years old, so consult for preschools as well. And I will be shifting over to Northwestern as the Hispanic community liaison. So very, very different role, and I'm so excited to embrace that. How I ended up in Northwest Iowa. My parents immigrated to the United States when I was 3, and they came for similar stories that you've heard, for a better life. They were very young when they had me and my sister, and they wanted more. They wanted the opportunity to provide a safe and secure and stable place where they could have a stable job, and where they could provide opportunities for my sister and I have two sisters, to go to school, to go to college and obtain a higher education if that was what we wanted to do. So at 3 years of age, we came across legally on border crosser visas. And when I didn't know about my legal status until I was eligible to get a driver's license. And all I could understand at that point was I couldn't take driver's ed. And so then I started asking some more questions, and I couldn't wrap my mind around why a piece of paper was prohibiting me from driving legally. Fast forward a few years in high school, I knew that I wanted to go to college, and I had my heart set on Northwestern. But I knew also that I wasn't eligible to be a student there. But I'm not one to give up easy, and I'm not one to turn down a fight. So I asked, and I worked really hard to have the opportunity to go there, and so I did, and it's opened up a lot of doors. But it has come with a lot of obstacles and barriers, and a lot of hindrances that I think that's something that, the reason why I'm here is that I think that's something that needs to change. So when I was a junior in college at Northwestern, I was double majoring in psychology and K-12 education and a Spanish minor, and I married my high school sweetheart, and we applied for the naturalization process. And that was the first time that I had a true pathway to citizenship, because up to this point, there was no way for me to obtain legal status, as you guys know. And we applied, and on March 3 of 2009, I went to my interview at the U.S. consulate in Mexico because I had overstayed my stay and I had accrued unlawful status. So then I had to be removed from the country. So I went to my consulate interview, and when I got there, the consulate interviewer was a Hispanic gentleman, and I was very nervous, and I could not understand his Spanish. So I asked him to please talk to me in English so I could fully understand the questions, and I wasn't able to comprehend and rationalize all the questions, and he got very upset with me. So he started speaking to me in English, but his English was broken, so that didn't help either. And so I did the very best that I could, and I asked him to repeat himself, and he got even more frustrated with me. And so then he asked me a question. He asked me lots of questions, but the $1 million question was, have you ever entered the United States illegally? So I was at a crossroads. There was no legal record, background check, nothing that indicated that I did have an unlawful entry. But as I reviewed that with my lawyer, I did have one when I was 17, which is a long story, and I don't want to get into it now, but I did have one when I was 17. And so I knew that I wanted, growing up in the community that I know and being multicultural and wrestling with this question of being undocumented and accruing unlawful status, I wanted to do the right thing, right? Pay my fine, be honest. I wanted to break free from that. And so I didn't lie. I told him, yes, I was 17 and I came in illegally. So he left, went back, and came back with a blue sheet. And that blue sheet said that that he was giving me the biggest penalty he could, which was a 10-year bar. And even worse, he didn't let me apply for the waiver. Now, I was prepared to get a no, but I was also prepared for the waiver to appeal that case and say, I will pay this fine, I will appear before a judge and present my case. But he did not allow me that opportunity. And so when I questioned him about it, saying, here, I have a letter from my lawyer, here is my reasoning for what happened, he did not let me explain myself. And so I got a 10-year bar, and we tried very hard to get the consulate to hear my case again, to change their opinion on my case. We had Senator Grassley and Harkin write letters. We had Northwestern write letters. I was 2 months shy of graduating. And so I was devastated with this 10-year bar. And so I waited 13 months trying to see if anything would change. Again, I had only been married for a short time. My family couldn't visit me because they can't cross, all of it. So after 13 months, I was faced with another challenging decision, which is to wait out my 10 years in Mexico in a place that I didn't know as home, or come back illegally. And that is something that I still struggle with today. And it's something that I'm just beginning to share because of all the shame and the weight that carries with that decision. But there's a lot of burden with it, but I don't take it back. I mean, I would do it again. I wouldn't have my 3 kids that I have today. I wouldn't be protected under Daca today. There's a lot of things, but yeah.
And so quickly, what has Daca meant for you?
So it was interesting to get Daca in the first place because I'm not supposed to be here. But again, it shows how it's such an arbitrary system and it's broken in many ways. And so Daca has meant that I am able to practice as a teacher, that I was able to get my teaching license, that I'm able to work at Northwestern, that I'm able to have these conversations here and feel a little bit protected. I mean, it's still a matter of being very vulnerable, right? And I'm sure individuals who are documented also feel that way. But yeah, it's an opportunity. Yeah.
Well, I know that was very brief, but we thank you so much for coming here, for sharing your story. And if you could all thank Martha for coming and sharing.
Thank you, Martha and Lief. That is one story out of so many that could be told. People living with that sense of shame and uncertainty. But it goes beyond that, doesn't it? What has gripped us more as a nation in this past year than the stories of what's happening at the border?